Hey everybody! Today we're gonna be doing a different video that is not related to my vlog. It's actually to clarify a recurrent question that I've seen as a comment in some of my videos when I talk about the ESC, the Electronic Stability Control, which is a safety system that is mandatory by law in all cars since a few years. Before I can explain you that, I should clarify two other systems that work with the ESC. They're called the TCS and the ABS. TCS is very simple, traction control system. You press too hard on the throttle, your wheels start spinning, it reduces the power so that the wheels stop spinning. Typical example, my car is a two-wheel drive, front wheels traction. So I am at the stoplight, it's a rainy day, I get on the throttle really hard as I start, the front tires start spinning like crazy, the rear tires are barely moving. The traction control detects that the rear tires are moving slower than the front, and it's going to reduce the power to match the speed of the rear tires. That's going to prevent a slip, and it can even help maintain control of the car. But in some situations, like on the snow, you need to make the tire spin, otherwise you will never get moving. So you need to have a button that turns it off. In fact, in all cars, there is a button that turns off the traction control, and you can slip the tires and get off the line on the ice. The other system is the ABS, anti-blocking system. It's the opposite of the TCS, and it's just as simple. You press the brake too hard, the wheels lock up, the ABS makes sure that the wheels keep spinning. Why? Well, let's say you're driving down the road and you see an obstacle in front of you. You stomp on the brakes really hard, your wheels lock up. Well, at that point, you cannot steer the car anymore. If your wheels are not spinning, you can try to steer with your steering wheel as much as you want. The car will keep going straight and you go hit the obstacle. So that's when the ABS comes in the picture. It detects that the wheel's locked up and releases the brake and starts pressing it like this. It does this. You can even feel it on the pedal pulsing, and you hear the tires doing. That gives you the possibility of maintaining control of the car. The good part about these two systems is that both the TCS and the ABS, they activate and do their action only after the driver committed a mistake. I get on the throttle too hard, the tires spin for about a half a second, then it reduces the power. I get on the brakes too hard, I lock up the wheels, after a half a second of wheels locked up, the wheels will restart spinning and letting me control the car. But if you instead have also the electronic stability control, the electronic stability control can independently activate these two systems even when it's not needed. And even worse, it can do it independently from the left side of the car to the right side of the car, which can cause the car to steer, which is what the electronic stability control is made for. It is made to help the drivers maintain the control when they're doing something wrong. Well, the problem is that the system is programmed to work with the majority of the usual drivers, which I don't want to sound offensive to anybody, but I feel safe to say that 90% of the drivers on the street, they don't know how to drive their own car. They probably don't have a clue how to drive their own car. And keep in mind that driving your car doesn't mean knowing how to respect the road signs. Knowing how to drive your car means knowing how to control your car in a critical situation. A situation where maybe the car slides and you need to control it. Well, when the car is sliding, the worst thing to do is to press the brake because the car will spin out. Why is that? Well, very simple. When you press the brake, the car will unbalance to the front wheels. The weight of the car goes to the front wheels, the back tires will come off the ground. If the car was already sliding, you can imagine you're going to pivot off the front and spin around. The point is that the ESC control is made to prevent even the situation of sliding. It starts acting even before the car slides. So let's take the typical example that I see on the street a lot of times. You're driving down the road, let's say at 50 miles an hour, simple speed. You're doing 50 miles an hour, you start taking a curve, you feel that the car is leaning, it's kind of freaky, let me brake a little bit so I can slow down while I'm in the middle of the curve. Well, you're stupid. I'm sorry to say this, I don't want to be offensive, but that's a very stupid action. Why am I saying that? Well, during a curve, the car already leans to the outside of the curve. So as the car leans, your inside wheels, they're already lifted off the ground. You know, they're not actually off the ground, but they have less weight on them. If in this moment you apply the brake, like we said earlier, you're gonna lean the car forward. The rear tire on the inside is gonna come off the ground, the car will spin off. That's as simple as that. If you enter a curve and you feel you're doing it too fast, the best thing to do is to hold a little bit of throttle and keep doing the curve. Because if you cannot do a curve by pressing on the throttle, trust me, you cannot do it by pressing the brake, because the brake unbalances the car. Fault is not yours. The fault, unfortunately, is of the driving schools, that they teach people that the brake is your friend, the brake is your safe place to go. No, that's a really bad thing to say, because the brake is a freaking traitor. It's there to bite you and it's gonna hurt you. You brake, you're in a curve, you're pressing the throttle, your car limit is up here. Then you brake because you're freaking out, your limit is now down here and the car spins out. So, first of all, never press the brakes in the curves. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they tend to do this bad thing. So that's when the stability control comes in the picture. Stability control was actually developed by Bosch and Mercedes to control the swing of the trailers in tractor trailers when there is crosswinds. Eventually, with the years, the system has been developed from being called ESP, Electronic Stability Program, to ESC, Electronic Stability Control, which was supposed to help drivers drive the car on the snow. But now the system is active all the time. And what it does is that when it feels that you're taking a curve a little bit too fast, it's going to start applying brakes to single wheels. So we said you have the car already leaning in to the side, like we said earlier, the ESC will start applying brake to this tire, the rear inside tire, so it's going to make the car pivot into the curve. Furthermore, if you press the brake, the stability control will adjust how much brakes you're pressing around. While I think it's great that it, partitions the braking force when you brake in the curve, I don't see a point for the system to start braking when I'm not pressing the brake. With my drive style, the way I drive, if I keep the electronic stability control on, every day while I'm doing a curve, I feel the car doing blah, blah, blah. It bugs me. It just bothers me. So to me, it's a routine. Every car that I get into, first thing I do when I turn it on, I press this button and hold it for a few seconds, and the system is off. And then I can drive around the way that I like. And if the car slides, I know how to control it and I deal with it. How? Well, you're doing a curve, let's say I'm doing a curve to the right, the car starts sliding. To control it, you press a little bit the throttle and counter steer. And that's great. If I do it with my car, once the system is off, everything is okay. The car slides, I press the throttle, control the slide, and that's it. I've done my curve. If I had the stability control on, the car slides, and immediately the system is going to start to steer in the direction where I'm steering. But since I tend to be really active, I may counter steer the other direction and it shoots me the other way. And that's a problem. So that's why I needed to turn it off. The problem that I found out by renting a bunch of cars is that sometimes there is not a way to actually fully turn it off. Some car manufacturers may tell you, oh, don't worry, when you turn off the traction control, the stability control is off as well. Well, that's not true, because the stability control can apply brakes to single wheels and can even make the traction wheels lose power. And that can become really a problem. The further worse problem that I found out is that sometimes you actually turn off the system, and even though it tells you that it's off, after a couple of seconds of slide, the system comes back on, and that can become into a really bad crash, as you can see in this video.
The trouble was, I was trying to make the McLaren do exactly what it's programmed not to do.
Flick it, go, Doctor, go. Now set it. We're off.
Tiffo, what's going on, man? What's going on?
Even with the traction control turned off, the car reduced the torque just when I needed it to hold the drift. Then, as the rear tyres began to grip and I was starting to steer out of the slide, the car tried to save itself with brake steer. All of which combined to create the massive overcorrection that turned us into a high-speed lawnmower.
You're not happy with it, are you?
No.
Isn't that
It doesn't want to
interesting?
be power slid, basically. It's not set up.
So you saw what a professional driver got caught under guard by this system and just threw him the other way. Why is that? Well, he was sliding the car, so he was making a curve in that direction to the right, but he was counter-steering to the left and pressing the throttle. The electronic stability control is not programmed to expect such a proper reaction from the driver. And he said, oh wow, the driver wants to go that way, so I need to reduce the power and steer the car the other way. And he took him into a crash. Unfortunately, I had experiences like that myself where I risked to end up in accidents because of the stability control self-engaging. And I don't understand why. On, some cars, you can even find several buttons that allow you to turn off all the way the stability control or choose different modes. In the case of my car, when I turn off the system, like I said, if I'm on a curve and I keep the throttle while the car slides, it doesn't do anything. If I press the brake, he activates and corrects my mistake. We said earlier, if the car is sliding and I press the brake, that's a mistake. I'm glad he corrects it. But if I'm controlling the slide with the throttle, I'm glad that it doesn't do anything. I don't want it to do anything. But on some rental cars that I rented, on the display, it tells you in clear words, electronic stability control off. I'm sliding the car, and all of a sudden the system reactivates out of nowhere for no reason. Why? There is the button. I know that it's expensive to do all the programs with different systems, but just put a button as simple like in this car, on, off. When I get in the car, the system is off. I press, the system is on. When I press, I turn it off. That's it, car is safe. I do understand that for the majority of drivers, this system is good. It helps them. But for other drivers, this system is dangerous. And this system should be safe for everybody. And for drivers like me and other active drivers, having the system on is simply dangerous. We need to have a way to actually turn it off effectively. Some manufacturers, they make you do a crazy series of operations to get it off all the way. I don't know why. Just put a button, let me cut it off, and let me drive. Let me be in control. I don't want to have the guy that programmed the electronic stability control behind the computer take control of my car and do stuff that I don't want the car to do. Let me do my thing. I'll deal with it. So that's an important thing. And the only way that you can figure out if your car is lying to you or not is really find an open field somewhere, abandoned, maybe an abandoned parking lot that is not used anymore. Turn off the system. Sometimes you need to hold it for several seconds before the system turns off. And then start driving around in circles really until you feel something. If the system engages, you know that your car is lying. The system is not off. If the car starts sliding on you, then you know the system is really not active. Again, if I press the brake, I like that the electronic stability control adjusts the brake force from the single wheels. But if I'm not pressing the brake, I don't want the electronic stability control to apply brakes for me and steer the car by using brake steer and, make the car go in the direction that I don't want to go. It's a matter of safety, and I think it should be mandatory by law that as much as there is the mandatory electronic stability control, there needs to be a way to turn it off. Again, this is a matter of safety. So thank you for listening to my rant, and I'll see you next time. Ciao!